Oye, esto va dedicado a todos los barrios de Puerto Rico. Trujillo, dedicado al barrio de La Perla.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hope you guys are having a great week so far. I know I am. Well, not really. It's been kind of a hectic week on my end. I'm just taking public speaking during the summer, and that's kind of requiring me to prepare speeches and stuff like that. I'm taking a little break now because I wanted to make a vlog, get my mind off of it before I rush back into practicing my speech more. So, yeah, let's get started. So today is going to be my list of 5. And it's going to be what I feel is my 5 favorite film villains. So, should be interesting. So let's get started. Number 5 of my villains is Alec Trevelyan from Goldeneye. Now, what makes Alec Trevelyan for me a really cool villain? You know, Goldeneye is a James Bond film released in 1995, and the first James Bond film to star Pierce Brosnan. And what makes Trevelyan so cool is that Trevelyan as a villain is that he, you know, throughout many of the Bond movies, you know, don't see the main villain. We see the main villain as sort of like Bond's intellectual equal, but not his physical one, you know? While the villain may be smart or even smarter than Bond, he may not be as physically powerful as Bond, and Alec Trevelyan was one of the first James Bond villains to be as physically powerful, as well as intellectually, as well as skills-wise. He is on equal footing with James Bond. He makes that such an interesting villain, because he always, you know, he always has a sense of what James is going to do, and he always predicts James's every moves, and that makes him so cool, so interesting as a villain, especially a James Bond villain. And he's played by Sean Bean, who is also known for the most recently in the hit show Game of Thrones, which I haven't seen, but I plan on watching it as soon as I can, and Boromir in Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. So, yeah, number 4 for my favorite film villains is Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. I know it may be kind of cheating because Voldemort is also a book villain too, but the reason why I picked Voldemort as a film villain is that why he works just as a villain in general is that he only appears in The Sorcerer's / Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, and Deathly Hallows 1 and 2. So the only one who doesn't appear is Half-Blood Prince and the Prisoner of Azkaban in any way, shape, or form. But what makes him such an effective villain, he's just, you know, evil, all-powerful, all the things that makes a villain, you know? Always has his shit together, you know? A classic, he's a very classic villain, but also what makes him such a really good villain in the sense that, like, in the 2 films that he's not in there, especially in Half-Blood Prince, you can feel him watching, waiting to strike, waiting for the next opportunity to gain the advantage, to feel like, you know, he is there, you know, and you feel his presence, you feel he is there, you know, even though he's not physically there, and for him to pull that off is very difficult. You know, it works some of the times. There's very rare occasions where that works. It also works sort of like Final Fantasy VII, where the main villain, Sephiroth, barely makes an appearance, only appears a handful of times throughout the entire game, but when he does make an appearance, it counts, and you always feel his presence there, and it's very difficult to pull that off, especially for a villain, and it works for him, and it works for Voldemort really well, and he was played by a handful of actors, and he was played by 2 different actors in the first 2 films, as they are different forms of Voldemort, and it wasn't until Goblet of Fire where Ralph Fiennes got the part as Lord Voldemort, and he is fantastic in the part. So, number 3 of my favorite villains is Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. Quentin Tarantino's most recent outing, he cited this as the greatest character he ever written, and I kind of tend to agree a little bit on that side, and also the fact that he's played to a T by Christoph Waltz. I mean, honestly, I feel like if they didn't pick the right actor for that role, he would have completely lost it, you know? He would have completely lost the movie would have been completely lost, I think. And Christoph Waltz, who eventually won an Oscar for the role as Hans Landa, is just brilliant, you know? Hans Landa has the best lines in the movie next to Aldo Rain, obviously, but, like, you know, second place followed by Aldo Rain, but Hans Landa has the best lines, the best dialogue, and Christoph Waltz just plays him to a T using his multitude of languages: English, French, Italian, you know? He's absolutely hilarious. He's such a dark character, and, you know, he has the best lines, and Christoph Waltz does a brilliant job at Hans Landa. And it's definitely one of, like, you know, definitely, like, one of my favorite villains. Number 2 is the Joker from The Dark Knight. Now, no offense to Jack Nicholson's Joker from the first Batman movie, but he does a good job. I'm not gonna lie, but Heath Ledger's Joker is so mind-bogglingly great. It's hard to comprehend that. The Joker. He looks psychotic. He looks like he's breaking down. He looks like a man who is not in control of the situation, but is. He steals the show with every chance he gets, which is probably should be required by law for anyone who plays the Joker. Anywhere where the Joker's going to be in any Batman mythology, the Joker has to steal the show because that's what he does, and he does that best. And Heath Ledger did that best. I think a lot of it was heightened by the fact that Heath Ledger did die, before the film was released, and that added a lot of hype to the movie. And I thought there's no way he can live up to this hype. And I remember when he was first cast as that part, I was like, there's no Heath Ledger, the guy from Brokeback Mountain, playing the Joker. I thought it wasn't gonna work, but then I learned how Christopher Nolan can take the actors under his wing and make really good performances out of that. I hope he does the same with Anne Hathaway and Catwoman, and Tom Hardy as Bane. He gets unexpectedly great things from the actors that work with him. And Heath Ledger did that for the Joker, and he made the Joker dark, made the Joker psychotic, made the Joker funny, made the Joker absolutely great, and improved a lot of things, stayed in character. He was the Joker and the fact is that they were able to build an entire ad campaign around this guy. The why so serious has become kind of in our lexicon. He's become iconic in the role as the Joker, and I think that's just great. So, number 1 of my favorite film villains of all time, no surprise, is Darth Vader from the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, I should be surprised because Darth Vader was the first villain I distinctly remember growing up as a kid. Star Wars was one of the first few films I remember watching when I was a kid, And seeing Darth Vader walking in Episode 4 New Hope with the mask, the breathing, the fact that he stood out from the environment, and, he was an intimidating presence, and unfortunately that intimidating presence has been somewhat ruined by the prequel trilogy, but in the original trilogy, he was the Dark Lord of the Sith, and he was intimidating. He commanded fear and respect, not more fear than respect, Yes, he was probably respected, but he was probably more fear than anything else, and the fact is that he's not, he's willing to do anything to, for his motives and for his, and I think that's really, as a film villain, he's fantastic, and he's so, his presence in the room can change an entire mode of conversation. His presence in a room, that's a villain in control, that's a villain who is in charge. That is a villain who is, great, that is an excellent film villain who could stand the test of time. It's going to be 30 years after Return of the Jedi was released, in 2 years. And Darth Vader can still remain an iconic villain for all these years, and I think it's, and I think it's just great. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to know what you guys think now. What is your favorite film villain, And post in the comment section below. I know there's a lot of, lines, especially now recently in the past 10 years, between book villain and comic book villain, film, there's a lot of blurred lines, But I want you, like I said, I just want you guys to think, what is your favorite film villain, You can, and state reasons. You have to state the reasons why. If you want to, go ahead, I really want to see why you guys have a favorite film villain or favorite film anything, So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I will talk to you next week as soon as I can. Alright, talk to you later. Peace.